Wow.
I went with the grain too, by the way.
I appreciate it.
I'm not going there.
No.
Don't worry. The daughter said something more should go here.
She's not touching my face.
Just have her first day of school.
Go, principal.
That's it.
Just technically, if we seal these without a time frame, then they're done indefinitely.
I have it here.
Okay, all right. So is that a yes?
So we don't.
We don't?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Then
Who's running this meeting?
Apparently
6:30.
we're good. We're good on public. Oh. I just asked. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll address it.
He's waiting for the
I'm waiting for
exact
6:31.
moment.
Oh, we're going 6:31.
He's late again.
Matt, are we ready? Oh, we're running. Thank you.
Uh-oh.
I would like to call to order this meeting of the Prospect Mountain High School JMA Joint Board. It is 6:30 p.m. on April 5th, 2022. Could we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, starting on this side.
Brandy Pelletier.
Carol Locke.
Jason Henry.
Jay Fitzpatrick.
Karen Cartono.
Eunice Landry.
Tim Broderick.
Heidi Duford.
Lila Atkins.
Pam McLeod. Ann Pierce. Grace Simonson.
Thank you. It's much easier to take notes when I'm not also having to do somebody else's job. First item on the agenda before even your complete agenda review is annual reorganization, which is why I'm the one talking right now. So according to the joint maintenance agreement, the towns alternate years with the chair of the committee. Last year, Barnstead held the chair, so I will take nominations for chair of the joint board. Should be an Alton representative.
I nominate Pam McLeod for board chair.
I second her
So
nomination.
nomination from Karen, seconded by Carol for Pam McLeod, and you accept. Are there other nominations? Is there any discussion on the nomination? Hearing none, now voting.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're in charge now, I'm done.
Okay.
You want to give her that?
Yes, please.
There you go.
All right, we will accept nominations for vice chair from Barnstead.
I nominate you as Landry.
Second.
Any other nominations? You accept, Eunice?
Yes.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. I'll accept nominations for secretary.
I'd like to suggest that this be a nomination for an Alton person because it hasn't been alternating and there was some concerns that I think Barnstead's done it for the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
I nominate Karen as secretary.
Do you accept?
It hasn't been seconded.
Well, in that case, second.
Sure.
All right, nomination by Carol and second by Ann. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You got a lot of friends over there.
All right.
detail person, she'll do a great job.
Exactly. Okay, we will open our first public input, and seeing none, I will close our first public input. Agenda review.
Make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
We have a couple of things, sorry, Mr. Henry.
That's all right. Just making a motion so we can discuss it.
I'll second your motion.
There we go.
Thank you. Any discussion?
So Heidi has brought in bids for engineering, an ESSER-funded construction project that we have to tell you about tonight that we'd like you to consider as an action item.
Put that under G. Anything else? No? Okay. Any other items or discussion? Okay. Take a nomination to accept the agenda.
I accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approval of minutes from January 4th, 2022.
Make a motion to accept the January 4th, 2022 minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. I'll take a motion to, oh, we already have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The minutes of March 7th.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of March 7th and including the non-public minutes,
Which should be sealed.
which should be sealed, which is sealed. Indefinitely.
Well, if they're just sealed, it will be indefinitely, but
I second the
Whatever.
motion.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, reports of the Finance Committee. We have an expenditure report. Any questions on this?
I have a question about the salary for special education. I mean, I know we had to switch directors. I just wanted to understand what the actual salary difference was for the new director compared to the previous.
We have, we added a special education teacher
Oh, okay.
as well.
I actually had a question on page 1, which was for tuition other, LEA.
We have a student that we are sending to,
Yeah, so there's one here, I think, from Pittsfield and one
Oh,
at
is
Governor
that the
Wentworth
student
from
that's
here,
going
so
to
we're paying Governor Wentworth.
Governor Wentworth.
Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to slide a student representative report into the agenda. Grace, take it away. You might want to slide the mic a little closer over there, if you can.
All right, so our Tri-M hosted a Music in Our Schools Month recital on the 22nd, and it went really well. The National Honor Society hosted the annual blood drive at the beginning of March, and the American Red Cross was able to collect 26 units of blood, which can benefit up to 78 individuals altogether. The Prospect Gay Straight Alliances Club, with support from the Environmental Club and Miss Kimball's Spanish class, collected over $650 and 15 cartons of warm clothes, non-perishable food, and needed supplies that were all shipped to Poland last week for Ukrainian refugees. One of our juniors recently organized a project to create birthday cards for the elderly in nursing homes and has collected around 100 cards already. Prospect's Lake Region Tech Center students won at the HOSA New Hampshire Leadership Conference. through their classes at LRTC at Kingswood. Altogether, we won a silver and a bronze medal in medical reading and a gold medal in medical law and ethics. In the art department, 7 students have been selected for a submission in the New Hampshire Art Educators Association's Youth Art Month. If any of them are to win the high school category, they win a $100 gift certificate and art supplies. If they end up being an overall winner, they win an additional $250 gift card. The National Art Honor Society's new 3 members will be formally inducted May 6th. The National Art Honor Society's members also have invited other students and will be having an art show at the Oscar Foss Library on Friday, April 15th. They are also working with the Alton and Barnstead Rotary to help earn money for a scholarship fund for prospect seniors going to college, and making artwork to be auctioned off at the Alton Home Show on the 23rd of April. The food and nutrition class here is having a food drive the 5th through the 7th with the purpose of battling food insecurity in our community. And with athletics, one of our members, athletes of the basketball team, a senior, was selected for the All-State second team, and one of our sophomore girls basketball players was selected for the All-State honorable mention, along with 4 of our members being selected for the All-State All-Academic team. The boys tennis had their first match today against Guilford, and girls tennis had their first match yesterday against Interlakes, and they won. And track, baseball, and softball are off to a strong start with first meets and games in the coming weeks. And this past weekend, the robotics team completed at the Peace and G district event. At the end of qualification rounds, they were placed 19th out of 40 teams. They were eliminated in the semifinals, taking the matches to 3, and they took home the Spirit Award again. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can get up coffees next time.
All right. Jay, you're up. Principal's report.
Good evening. To follow up on some of the things that Grace had mentioned, we had 75% of our winter athletes, it was 39 out of 52 students, made honor roll for the second term, which is awesome. It's a good number. And we had the NHIAA rates schools for their sportsmanship, and of the 23 schools in our division for the winter, Prospect actually earned the highest scores of all of those schools for winter sportsmanship. Now, we only had skiing and basketball, where other schools will have other sports, but nonetheless, being ranked, even I think we were 5th if you take the fall and the winter sports combined. I think we're top 5 for the Lakes region. So, kudos to our athletes and our winter coaches. I think I've mentioned to you in the past, we took on a book initiative this year at the school. We read Life is Good over the summer, and we divided each month up into, we took one of the 10 superpowers from that book, and we've kind of made it our monthly mantra. This past March, it's a long stretch of time in between February break and April break. March is usually a very long month. And so March was a fun month around here. So we did things, we had various dress-up days, and we had some friendly competitions between students that could compete during lunchtime, paper airplane throwing contests, bottle flipping contests, just stuff to pass time in a fun way. We did the same thing with staff as well. And some of the games that we started in March have continued over into April. We have a Family Feud game going on right now, and my team's in the finals of the losers bracket, but nonetheless, in the finals. April is humor month, and so you may have noticed as you were walking down here, there are a lot of signs up, red signs, with a lot of Stephen Wright quotes or dad jokes, depending on how you want to look at it. But the committee who's responsible for humor, they met with us today during the faculty meeting, and our goal is just to try to put some humor into the day-to-day operations of the building. But this initiative has been fun all year. Some groups have come up with some really great things that have extended out into the community as well. And we're hoping that it's trickling down and that kids are seeing it as well and accepting it and buying into some of the stuff that we're doing. Back on March 21st, we held a teacher workshop day. We had 14 teachers participate in a co-teaching workshop. our freshman and sophomore teachers. The co-teaching initiative is something that we're moving forward with next year. So we're working towards that. We're going to be giving some of the co-teachers some opportunities, some professional development time to better plan and be prepared for that as well. The remaining teachers, administration, counselors that did not participate in that workshop participated in 3 different conversational workshops throughout the day. We've discussed everything from SEL in the classroom, social emotional learning, to 504 accommodations and changes that we're making to 504s next year, as well as having an interesting discussion about the differences between general level and college prep level classes. And it's an interesting conversation to have, and it's probably one that will eventually come to this level and have a board discussion. We have 5 different levels here, from basic, general, college prep, honors, advanced placement / dual enrollment courses, like we talked about last time. As a school, it's been interesting to see over the years the transition from really being a steadfast college prep school to having fewer kids take higher level courses and having more of our population taking general level courses for a number of reasons. But we are putting things in place to try to help improve that. But it is something that it's a perfect storm as to maybe the why, whether it's been COVID or whether it's been a long time coming, whether it's just generational, where you sometimes just have classes of kids who come up and they need a little bit more support than other classes. So at some point in time, that conversation will make it to the board level. We have put final touches on our master schedule planning. And so we've gone through the process. Students have chosen classes. We've collected all of that data. We've put it into the system, and Justin, Linda, and I, Mr. Carloni, the guidance counselor, guidance director, the registrar, and I sat down today, and we looked at all of the numbers and the offerings that we're going to be able to offer. The great part is that it looks like we're going to be able to offer everything that we had intended to offer. The class sizes look tolerable, decent, considering that we are ultimately going back to our traditional schedule next year, eliminating some of the COVID protocols and mitigating factors that we've put in place for the past couple of years. So we're also going to shortly begin some work on a little bit of curriculum revision. We had been doing a great job right up through COVID of having some pretty viable and guaranteed curriculum. And we had to pivot when COVID rolled around. Because we only had half the students in the building last year at a time, you really couldn't get through everything that needed to get through. So the past 2 years have been, it's been an interesting time in terms of curriculum development. And we feel like we're moving in a great direction. The schedule, people are really excited about for next year. And I'll talk about the DENPAC part of it in just a moment. But from the master scheduling standpoint, we have our section numbers in there. We're going to try running some trials at the end of this week to see how many of our kids get the classes that they've signed up for. So hopefully by this time next month, we'll have a pretty good indication and be close to 100% scheduled if everything goes according to plan. And if you have questions about any of this at any point in time, please interject and ask. DENPAC. You saw the presentation that we did a couple of months ago. The committee's been hard at work. We've met 4 or 5 times at this point. We've generated a frequently asked questions list. We've generated the letters that are going out to faculty and staff. We have the spreadsheet designed as to how people can sign up for things. We actually went over that with them today. Email went out to them this afternoon with a follow-up email going out tomorrow morning that really explains this is how you read the spreadsheet, this is how you go about signing up. Some people are auditory learners, some people are hands-on learners, so we want to make sure that we not only told them today and showed them today, but we give them the opportunity to see it firsthand tomorrow. We sent them there are several documents that we've given them, including a list of choices and ideas that they could choose from. We've encouraged them to begin thinking about what funding might look like. And I may be coming to you next month or in June asking for some funds. Obviously, when we went through budget season this past year, we didn't anticipate this being where it's at. So we will need some funds to make things work for next year. I don't have a ballpark idea, but part of the reason that we are soliciting that information from teachers now is we want this system built by the time springtime rolls around. You know, we want everything itemized out as much as possible in terms of dollar amount, so that I can come to you and say, hey, I need X, Y, and Z for this much. We also want it in place so that we don't have to worry about anything in the fall. We want the students to be able to come in the fall and simply follow the process that we've outlined to choose what it is, and we hit the ground running. So our goal is to have this locked down by the time we leave for school this year. And we've entertained the idea of possibly even going through and taking some of the kids that we already have here and trying it with them and having them sign up this spring so that we can work out bugs over the summertime. I believe at the next meeting, if Tim wants, we'll come back, the committee, members of the committee will come back and probably tell you everything that I just told you. So if you see them, don't tell them that I said anything of this. We'll make them earn their money and put a little pressure on them, kind of speak in front of them. But by and large, everything has been going very smoothly. The committee has worked well together to create this opportunity. And I think the greatest part about it all is it seems like everybody is excited about this. When I met with the students with course selection, 8th graders came up from both schools on 2 different days. And we had put this schedule up so that they could see what type of bell schedule that we ran. And when I met with, I think it was the juniors, do you remember me putting up the schedule?
Yeah.
And there definitely seemed like there was a genuine excitement, or at least interest, we'll go with interest, intrigue about what it actually would entail. And everybody who's been part of working on this, people who have asked questions about it, everybody seems to be coming at it from a very optimistic perspective, understanding that we are going to improve Prospect Mountain. It starts with relationship building, and what better way to build relationships than getting outside of the classroom and building organic, good, healthy, positive, emotional relationships with kids. So we're all very excited about it. Questions?
Will the kids have an idea when they leave in June what the offerings might be?
Yeah, so that's our end game, is that if we don't get to the point of even getting to sign up kids, it would be great if we can actually hit that point of signing up kids this spring. That way, in the fall, all we have to worry about are the incoming new students.
Yeah.
But at the very least, they will get an overview of what it is, what it's about, what it's going to look like. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not the only decision maker there, but if we can get to that point of showing them what it looks like, we should be able to say, have at it, start signing up.
Yeah, it's kind of new. They may need some time. I'm just thinking to kind of think about it.
Any other questions regarding that?
How often are the activities going to change? They're going to be by quarter?
So they're every quarter. There are 8 sessions per quarter. 8 sessions per semester, 4 sessions per term. So you'll sign up for session 1, which will be 4 sessions, and then you'll sign up for session 2, which will be a different 4 sessions, or perhaps the same session, depending on what it is.
And you might revisit this with Jay when we get to the proposed school calendar for next year, which is kind of coded to show what he means.
What that looks like, yeah. Other questions? The last thing I have for you is summer enrichment. We have, back in mid-March, I did survey the staff to see who was interested. We did this last year as well. So I sent out another survey to see who was interested. Today I have 7 folks who have expressed interest. Everything from hiking to bass fishing to art studio to paddleboarding, visiting historic museums, robotics group, and then this one hodgepodge of, I couldn't really categorize it, but it ultimately is about getting people together to practice study skills and what have you. So there are 7 offerings to date. At the next step here is for me to sit down with a couple of the stakeholders and figure out which ones are worth running, and figuring out the logistics about making that work. And we'll do that sometime in the next few weeks. Special education is also planning their extended school year opportunity. It looks like they're going to be using some of the property down at Tail Store in Barnstead. And we're hopeful that perhaps some of the summer enrichment stuff that I just mentioned, whether it's the hiking, fishing, and what have you, might be able to access off-site opportunities as well. So we'll see. But the SY program is planned and ready to go. At this point, it's just figuring out how many students are going to be involved in it. Any questions?
So
Thank
the
you.
summer programs, I'm sorry, so the summer programs, will include transportation, or how will that work? Do you know yet? It'll depend on the numbers.
It really depends on the numbers. Last year, for example, they went hiking at some place further away. We supplied a bus for them. If we do something like, hey, we're gonna go fishing over at the lake, we'll have to determine whether or not everybody who signs up has their own mode of transportation, and if they're all freshmen, we explore getting the bus for them. So it's really gonna be based on student demand.
Thanks, Jay.
All right, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, good update.
Superintendent report?
So I've outlined this in your packet yesterday, starting with enrollment options. So I miswrote, the last meeting we held in December was with Ann and Pam, but the joint board meeting we held in December with Milton was with Jason and Karen. Sorry about that. And when I say that they have not responded, I mean they haven't responded formally to you, right? School board to school board. I've been in touch with members of that board, but they have not responded formally to you. And from my conversations with some of their members and simply watching some of their meetings on YouTube, I know that they are talking about other options. There appear to be people there interested, very interested in keeping Newt open, which is certainly their right. There appear to be some board members in Milton who think that Farmington might be a better partner for them, which might be wonderful. And I believe there are some folks in that town who think that they should absolutely be trying to negotiate a tuition agreement with you. So that's where that stands. It's up in the air. I would describe it as the ball being in their court. At their recent election in March, the citizens of Milton did vote to reestablish the Exploration Committee. That's the committee we hosted here last August that ultimately recommended to the Milton School Board. Remember, the Exploration Committee is not the Milton School Board. It's a separate stakeholder group that was established by a petitioned warrant article in Milton. So it's been reestablished by another petitioned warrant article in Milton. That is the group that last September left its dinner and presentation here with us, went back to the Milton School Board, and their recommendation was that Newt should be closed and that the Milton School Board should attempt to negotiate exclusive tuition agreements with Prospect Mountain High School and Alton Central School. So that exists again, and that's all we know about that at the moment. So I want to, tonight's the night I introduce the next option. We've talked about two other towns previously. We've talked with the good people from Milton more recently. I've been speaking with the Commissioner of Education for several months about a law in New Hampshire that allows schools to become open enrollment schools. I didn't find the law to be clear, which is why I reached out to the Commissioner, and he and his attorney saw some of the same issues that I saw, and they've been working on some clarifications. I met with the Commissioner last week, and he believes that they are close to clarifying how open enrollment works in ways that would be useful to us. The biggest problem that I saw with the open enrollment law in New Hampshire and the ed rule that supports the law is that although the law describes a way that open enrollment schools, which are open to any student who resides in the state, so if Prospect Mountain High School were an open enrollment school, any high school age student from New Hampshire could apply to come here. You would establish criteria for admissions. The Board of Education would approve the criteria for admissions along with all of the other rules and regulations about how the school would work as an open enrollment school. And the law allows the school to charge the district of residence for any student coming here up to 80% of your per pupil cost. The law is completely silent on how we collect that money, and that's a problem. So that's what the commissioner and I have been talking about, and we're close enough to having good answers that I think it is time for me to explain this possibility to the Enrollment Options Committee of the Joint Board in greater detail. You don't want to do that tonight because it'll take the next hour. So I would like you to, once you have established who's serving on that committee this year, which is one of the things that needs to happen hopefully before you leave tonight, if that group could meet on April 12th, 13th, or 20th, those are all pretty good nights for me, and it would allow us to start this ball rolling. It's a long process. This wouldn't happen by next fall. We'd go through the first part of the process in the next 11 months. It would involve voter approval on the warrants next March. And then if Prospect Mountain High School became an open enrollment school, students who do not reside in Alton and Barnstead could be here as soon as the following fall, the fall of 2023. It would also not prevent you from also making a tuition agreement, an exclusive tuition agreement with another community if somebody came back and wanted to do that. So this is not an either-or situation, it's a next option. And again, I think that committee would want to dig into this in much greater detail, which I'll be prepared to do hopefully sometime during the month of April if we can work that out. And if we can't, it could wait a little bit longer because again, this isn't that pressurized in terms of the timing. Questions on that? I'm sure there will be. This might not be the order I had on your agenda, but I want to talk next in a similar way about shared services. And again, I'm asking your shared services committee, whoever that's going to be for the next year, to schedule a meeting. And I've offered the same 3 dates plus a fourth. So the fourth date of the 26th, that's during April vacation. I thought that that probably wouldn't work for many of you, but it's there if that happens to. So I think there are 2 things, and that's what I've outlined here. First is a report to that committee on how things have been going this year. We've been focusing on central office operations. Some of that's going swimmingly. On some topics we've probably stumbled a little bit, and we have areas for improvement. So I think I would share our assessment, primarily Heidi's and mine, of how it's going, and also hear yours. So that would be part 1 of that meeting. And then part 2 of that meeting is in section 5 of the MOU you agreed to a couple of years ago. You provide for an annual evaluation of what should we do next. And we have had some changes come up in certain areas of operations in one of the 3 SAUs at least that prompts those conversations. Those conversations need to be held soon. So this is probably more time sensitive than the enrollment committee meeting. Those conversations need to be held soon, because if we are going to, whether it requires budget transfers or not, if we're going to change the way that you're spending already budgeted money by combining anything, that needs to be done relatively soon. So again, that's the next step, I think, in continuing with your work in shared services. And again, I'd ask that committee to schedule a meeting in the next few weeks if possible. And then the third thing I'm not going to ask you to schedule a meeting for, I'll ask a bunch of other people to do it, and it's strategic planning. So in the fall of 2019, I just looked at this presentation the other day, it was October, I gave those of you who were here at the time my 100-day entry report, and had highlighted these 7 areas that are on my memo. Number 1, enrollment trends, which we're clearly still talking about. And then things that have more to do with the operations of the high school, things that we've been working on as best we could during the pandemic, but what we haven't done is pulled a group together to create a strategic plan with defined objectives and a schedule to try to accomplish those things. For good reason, right? That March, everything went sideways, and it just feels, even though last summer I thought maybe our heads were above water, it feels like it has just happened. I do think that the work needs to continue, and it's time to get a strategic planning committee together and put something in front of you. And I told you last month that I would be doing this. So I'll be scheduling those meetings probably for May, June, and trying to wrap up that work. Summer's tough, so going into next year. And again, I think if you read down through the list of topics, some of these things we've been working on, right? And Jay, whether it was what we anticipated or not, by rolling with the punches, Jay talked about the new schedule. Well, that is a great example of a collaborative process, right? You all watched that happen this year. Teachers, other staff, and administrators worked together to solve a problem that, if it had been done any other way, could have resulted in conflict. And I think this system, it's fair to say, has some history of conflict when it's been time to make important decisions about school operations. So, it sounds from the principal's report like things are going well and we're on the right track, and I would chalk that up to as a victory that's consistent with some of these goals, right, that I established or suggested we wanted to establish a couple of years ago. I just think now it's time to formalize it and do a real strategic plan. So, without fully exploring any one of these topics tonight, any one of which could be over an hour by itself, I think these are what need to happen next, and especially those two committee meetings. Carol?
Who do you anticipate being the stakeholders?
Yeah, so if you want to elect versus appoint board members, that's certainly your prerogative. I would imagine you'd want at least one from each town. Beyond that, when I've done this in the past, I've rather than handpick everybody, I would ask Jay, because he knows the parents, right, to help with that. We don't have a special ed parent advisory group here, but I would look intentionally for parents of some students on IEPs who receive services here. I'd look for people involved in athletic programs. I talked specifically about having a subgroup kind of get together and talk about not only the school's athletic programs, but sort of the whole athletic development climate of the two towns, because high school athletic programs are really about what you do with 5-year-olds. That's, unfortunately, that's the reality. So I think that's even a bigger group, right? I'd look for folks from town government to be involved. I mean, I'm talking about probably 20 to 30 people. And I don't need 20 hours of their lives. I need them to show up 3 or 4 times, right? And go around to different tables and different easels and put Post-its on them and kind of help prioritize.
Are we scheduled to develop a strategic plan for ACS also?
You want to ask me next week? Yes. Yes. And Barnstead's going to wait until the new principal starts.
Okay, just curious.
Yes, yes.
On that note.
No, we all need this, right?
Right.
And coming out of the pandemics, I mean, I have a feeling that every school district in the United States should be doing this, or the world, over the next 6 months. Sorry.
On that note, we're talking a lot about committees, and we forgot to do committees, so I think this is a good juncture to do it while we're thinking about.
I have your
You put it on the,
current list,
yeah,
or current year's list.
okay.
I'd like to stay on the committees that I'm on.
Do you need a reminder of what we're on? Yeah, okay. Budget and Finance is Eunice, Rebecca, Eliza, and Karen. Buildings and Grounds is me, Jason, Lila, and Carol. Personnel and Policy, me, Brandy, Anne, and Lila are the alternates. Technology, not really a committee. I'm on the Technology Committee. Negotiations, Eunice, Carol, Eliza, and me. Do we have,
There
we
will be
have
one
the
negotiation next year.
paras
Yep,
this year, okay.
or this year.
Shared services is me, Eunice, Karen, and Eliza. Enrollment options is Jason, Karen, Eunice, and Ann. And communications is me and Lila. I'm glad to see it, I forgot. I think we didn't, I thought we didn't do it, but we did. I'd really like to stay on shared services. That's kind of my only strong preference, but let's see what, Brandy, do you have? We can just kind of go around or throw them out, I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to stay on policy and then take an opportunity to join another one. Whether it's enrollments or, I know you mentioned Eliza's on shared services, so I don't want to.
Yeah, you're only on one committee, so that makes sense.
I feel like Eliza, she's not here to speak for herself, but she's got a heavy load.
Okay, yeah, she does.
I know,
She
that's
does,
why.
yeah.
Do you think she'd be,
No, she won't be heartbroken to get up to anything.
okay.
I can speak for her.
Let's move you to shared services then. Do you want to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
She will not
And
be
we need
blamed.
to set up, strategic planning.
And strategic planning, yes, which is probably a fairly, I would say, intense but compressed committee.
Right, so it'll be demanding
spring?
for a few months, and then it'll be over. And by demanding, I mean, you know, one meeting every couple of weeks for maybe 4 meetings.
Okay, anybody else? Carol, how are you feeling?
Well, I didn't know we were negotiating again. Who are we negotiating with, Paris?
Paris.
Support staff, Paris.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm willing to do that again if you'd like me to.
Okay.
And then building and grounds, I know nothing about, but I'll be happy to stay on it.
You were a school principal, you know a lot about it.
Yeah. And if you need someone for strategic planning, I'd be happy to join that. Although I was thinking I'd join the ACS one, so I don't know. See, that's the problem.
I guess let's
Okay.
start with strategic planning. Who's interested in being on strategic planning? Let's kind of put it that way. Eunice, Lila, Anne. So then we would need one more Alton person.
So you're having 2 from each?
Well, yeah, that's fine.
I mean, someone has to be left behind for the other one, that's the thing, I'm not doing both, so,
Okay.
you see what I'm saying?
For strategic planning, the shared services
Negotiations,
negotiation.
yeah.
Well,
Negotiations.
she wants to do ACS, so,
The strategic planning needs people for ACS too, that's why I'm asking. So if I join the one for the high school, I'd be happy to do that, but I don't know,
You want to do both. It's a lot.
it's a lot to do both.
Mhm.
I know the superintendent. We could stagger the timing
I do have a
so that we're only doing one at a
outside
time.
school.
and there might be some consistency, so.
I mean,
Karen, did your hand go up for that also?
I could do one or the other,
You could do
yeah.
the
I would
ACS
also
one?
prefer not to do both.
It's
Okay.
to do both would be a lot, I think, but
Okay.
just, that's
So-
my opinion,
Between the two of you, who's interested in Alton and who's interested in Prospect? One.
doesn't matter.
You want to arm wrestle? No. It doesn't matter to me. either.
Okay.
Flip a coin.
All right, Carol, you're on Prospect. Karen, we'll talk about it next week. Okay, so who else do we have?
Jason?
Jason, you're on buildings and grounds and enrollment options.
Sure.
Okay. Karen,
I'm happy to stay with what I'm on, which I
budget
think
and
is finance,
finance and shared
and
services.
enrollment.
Enrollment, okay.
Same.
You're
I'll
good?
stay with.
You're good?
Yep.
You're good?
No, I'm good.
Do you
Whatever
want
she's on the
sign up for anything
strategic
else?
Yeah, I'll do, if you want me to do strategic, I'll do strategic.
You're already on there.
Oh, good.
plan. So, girl.
I'll just give your list to Grace and let her sign you up.
No.
I'll sign you up for everything. All right.
So where's that?
Okay.
Eliza?
So Eliza would be on negotiations. We shouldn't be as intense. I wouldn't think it'd be as intense this year.
You said it out loud.
Budget finance.
Budget finance? All right.
Okay, I went to Rochester.
Mm-hmm. Better?
Is that just those two?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll let her know after the meeting.
Okay.
What's Rebecca? Did you know? What's Rebecca?
Oh, Rebecca. Rebecca is on budget and finance, which is a good fit for her. She's not really on anything else, but she has been the budget committee person in Alton. That's a lot. So we'll just make sure we look at that next week.
She what?
She loved it.
Oh. She's a good liaison with the town.
Mm-hmm.
She has a lot of
She is,
townspeople.
yeah. Okay, looks good. We'll give that to her.
So perhaps after the meeting, we could talk about scheduling those two meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question on the stakeholders for strategic planning. Should we also include just community members?
Yep.
And I'm trying to remember for the last ACS strategic plan, didn't we have even some outside group come in to help? I don't remember. From UNH.
To facilitate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing in Concord now too, yeah.
Yeah, which I haven't planned. I have a process that I've used before, and I have done it. And I didn't mention students. I wouldn't do something like this without students in the room as well. Potentially alumni, right, who you could consider community members. I'd be more than happy to bring in a facilitator. I've used facilitators before. Jay had the pleasure of working with one I like. I did a strategic plan with a stakeholder group in my last district and really enjoyed it, so I'm happy to do that or not, at your pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
I think people from the community, maybe we should look at budget committee members.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did in Concord is we have a stakeholder committee, but lots of input from various folks in the community. We did some focus groups with community organizations, so they had a sort of a 1 hour commitment, but they didn't have to come to these sort of repeating meetings, which can get a little deep in the weeds.
I think in the Alton half of the joint board hasn't seen this as much, but in Barnstead, when we reinstated the Space Needs Committee, for example, you saw some examples of how I might go about reaching out to different constituencies in the town and make sure groups are represented.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I thought was really beneficial about ACS's last strategic plan is it was very goal and action step oriented. It made it really a working document, not something that got written and then just put on the website or sat on the shelf. It really was a working document that we went back to every single board meeting to check progress. And I think that was really productive that it was done that way. So it would be great if we could kind of do a style that is goal-oriented and action step-oriented.
Mm-hmm. That's how they should be. I did strategic planning for my capstone project for my CAGs, and like that is the standard. So yeah, it was a really good plan.
And I feel like I should point out, back on the shared services topic, and I know some of you will be in a meeting again, hopefully soon, because that one we really need to have as soon as we can. I've already taken some actions. There will be an IT consultant here, and by here I mean all 3 schools, on April 20th, 21st, and 22nd to do an external audit and provide some recommendations. It's just another voice. We've been conducting internal audits in all 3 schools, but we've had a change in SAU 72 in IT leadership, and this is exactly what we talked about when you agreed to the MOU on shared services in the first place. When something changes, stop and talk about it before just going back to what we've always done, right? So I'm gathering points of view and recommendations on how we might want to proceed in IT already, anticipating that that's one of the things that we'll be talking about in shared services.
Okay. Good with committees? Action items, we have a school board scholarship. A reminder that everybody on the board contributes $50. I know we haven't mentioned it, but I know it will come up. What's our deadline, Heidi?
Today.
Yeah.
Probably.
Did you bring your checkbook? You gotta tell us in advance to bring the checkbook.
Do you have Venmo yet?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, where's Venmo? That's easy.
Take checks or cash, please. Old school.
I always have a checkbook. We make it out to
Check to
Prospect
Prospect
Mountain.
Mountain?
Can't remember. Prospect Mountain? I think so.
What's a check?
Yeah, I know.
Heidi, how late, if we were to drop it off at the office for you? You can. Yeah.
What's your date,
How late
Heidi?
are you there tonight?
My date? When do the scholarships go out?
Usually,
You have probably till May, right?
awards night, right? Yeah,
Yes.
awards night is when they give the scholarships.
So, early June.
There you go.
So we
We make
can
the
give it
check
to you
out
at our
to
next
Prospect Mountain,
meeting,
right?
or do you want it before then? We can bring it to you at our next meeting, or do you want it before then? Okay, I just wanna make sure if it was time sensitive, I'd drop it off.
And if you don't wanna come up here, Deborah, I would be happy to get it to Heidi.
Okay. No problem.
This is an action item. Are we voting on the scholarship? To reestablish it? Okay. All right, so I'll take a motion to reestablish the school board scholarship for the 17th year.
So moved.
Any discussion? Okay,
The
all
school
in
board
favor?
scholar is actually named
It's
a memorial,
It's
right?
Maureen Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
so.
Yes.
and I-
It doesn't, oh, does it? Okay. Yep, you're right. Maureen Fitzpatrick Memorial Scholarship in the amount of $500. And with a focus on, human services degrees. All right, any further discussions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Graduation and the last day of school.
So, the attached calendar is actually this year's calendar approved by the board last year, but now updated to show 2 traditional snow days and 2 remote days for students. As a result of the 2 snow days and an error in the calendar, when we had you approve it last year, I think it was March, which is an 18-day month. We had 19 days there, added it up and got 180. There were actually 18 school days. That's the month of a teacher workshop, which was held on the 21st. So inadvertently, we had you approve a 179-day calendar, which is fine, except now we need to have 180 days of school. So what that means is the last day of school would be for students on Tuesday the 21st. That will put the last teacher work day on the 22nd, which is per their CBA. And because the Department of Education allows graduation once scheduled to be held on the day it was scheduled for, we can keep graduation on the 10th. I checked that with DOE on Friday.
So we don't have enough hours to make up those days?
Not under the schedule we've been running during the last 2 years.
Oh, 'cause we have a short day.
So under the previous schedule and under the new schedule,
We'll have it next
we have
year.
more than enough hours, but under this schedule, we don't, so we have to hit 180
Okay.
days.
Can we make those 2 last couple of days fun days for kids? That's late.
Jay says no fun.
They usually are fun days.
You already had humor, you already had, what do you want?
Outside days.
Let those teachers
That
out.
would just be misery.
If we really had local control, we might not even have those days.
Yeah, no kidding.
Do you need a motion on this? or-
Yeah.
Yes.
Make a motion that we accept the, Friday, June 10th is graduation, Tuesday, June 21st, last day for students, undergraduate students, and Wednesday, June 22nd is the last day for staff, teachers and paraprofessionals, I would assume.
Second,
The emphasis on fun.
Yes.
whatever that looks like, right? Do we do early release days? That would be bad.
Well, one's an early release. Yeah, those are early release.
Yeah, we could do both
Whatever.
early release, see? I'm all right.
Any further discussion?
They'll do work.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Do we have a rain date for graduation, or are we rain or shine?
It's gonna be
What
boring.
do you usually do? What's the practice been? Has it ever happened?
We hold it
Never happened.
indoors
We've
if we
only
can't do
had
it
outdoor
outdoors.
graduation 4 times now, so.
Yeah.
Are we doing outdoor again this year?
That's our plan.
Thank you. I like it. I like it a
I
lot.
mean, we're small enough that we can move in, right? We
Yeah.
have an 800-seat auditorium.
Right, we open up the cafeteria to the
Mm-hmm,
over.
It can be a rain or shine
mm-hmm,
day.
yeah. I really like the outdoor graduations.
Sounds like a lot.
Okay, moving on. 22-23 school year calendar.
Please don't get a headache. So this is a calendar that, first of all, it's in a new format. It's now one format in all 3 SAUs. It is as identical as we can make them, which means not quite identical, but pretty close. So unlike the elementary school calendars, this one has one school day prior to Labor Day weekend. It is freshman orientation day. So students who are entering the high school will have that orientation prior to a 4-day weekend. Everybody else starts school the following Tuesday.
Is that a full day?
Traditionally, that day has been a full day, but there's no, we don't have to have it a full
Could
day.
it be like an abbreviated day with a barbecue or something like
Well,
that?
it's not a full day of classes.
Yeah.
They go through an orientation, there's various activities that they do. We fill that time, but if it's the will of the board not to go from 8 to 3, we certainly can adjust.
Can I say something? I found as a freshman orientation was actually great. It was a lot of fun, and we did a lot of outside stuff, and it was actually like a great way to mix the Alton and Barnstead kids, because we knew some of each other, but we didn't know like everybody. So I found it was a nice way to like mix us all together.
And I remember my first year here going outside and seeing, I didn't know him at the time, Brian Stewart, kind of yelling in the middle of the soccer field and getting the kids to yell back and thinking I was in a great place. It was pretty cool.
So it'll be fun?
My kid will be here, it can be fun or not fun, don't bother me.
And then reality hits on the Tuesday, huh?
Exactly.
What do we say?
The blue dates, and it's dark on this print, sorry, but the blue dates, those are block days, right? So in the new schedule, what, again, Jay and his folks, including the people on the DENPAC committee and the PMTA folks who were involved in the whole collaborative process of coming up with this schedule, they recommended having 8 pairs of days, right, Tuesday, Thursday, in each term. That allows us to avoid 3 or 4 day weeks where you would have one of those block days but not the other. So it maintains equity in scheduling, because remember, the 7 periods that a student has on Monday get divided, 4 of them on Tuesday, 3 of them on Thursday. So if you had a week where you only had the Tuesday or only had the Thursday, you'd end up with an inequitable amount of instructional time in certain classes. That's solved here. They did a tremendous job. A lot of work went into this. It wasn't me. They really, Jay and his folks did a wonderful job with this, and it works. One thing that's unusual for the high school is that you'll note that December 23rd is not a school day, and that is because of my effort to create one schedule that works in all 3 SAUs. At one of the 3 schools, we have a contractual obligation to not have school that day. So we're not having school that day under this proposal. So this puts us really close, really, really close. You know, I'm trying to avoid days when the buses run to one school but not the others, right? That doesn't seem very efficient, especially, you know, if it's the same town, which if you're busing to the high school but not, it doesn't always work. So again, it's as close as we can come. But this is revised since the first draft that you saw, and I'm proposing this as the school calendar for next year.
So on those non-block weeks, school would start at 8 a.m. every day, correct?
Yes, so that's a great point, thank you. And remember, from the presentation, I know it was quick, so it's important to point this out probably again. The 7-period day starts at 8. The block days start at 8:50 for students, right? The staff come in and have that common planning time first on those 2 days. So on those weeks, like the first week of school, right? Tuesday through Friday, students will be in at 8 a.m. every day, or starting their first class. They'll be here earlier than that, but they'll be starting their first class at 8 a.m. every day. The next week, they'll start class at 8 on the 12th, and then the 13th will be the first block day, and students will start class at 8:50. Which is why the color-coded calendar hopefully will help, because families are going to have to keep this straight. Students are going to have to keep this straight.
Yeah, and I think that Prospect does a great job with the communication in the letters and the texts and all of that and the updates, so,
Keep it going.
yeah.
Can we possibly, I know this is like involving other parties now, but, get the bus schedules established ASAP, because the mornings are gonna be confusing, at least for a while, for parents and kids.
Yeah, I mean,
Pickup times at least.
once all 3 calendars are approved, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Has this been run by the teachers' associations?
Oh, yeah.
This has
I-
been,
They
okay.
might have
We're at
written
the
it.
final step. We've done all the input
It's
steps. Okay.
Jay and Justin Carloni and Linda Roy and Brian and Peter from the PMTA. I mean, they were all in the same room working on this when I came over here. It really, I think it's been looked at pretty exhaustively.
Is there any opportunity for kids who don't ride the morning bus to get dropped off early if they have to be on those block days when it doesn't open till 8:30?
Yeah, I had that question too. I'm aware of some kids that drop off siblings in Alton, so they sit around for an hour because they can't come to school that early, and, you know, those kinds of situations, or parents drop them, you know, there's just all kinds of strange situations.
Is
Yeah.
the,
It is something that we will be able to work out.
Yeah. Okay.
We used to do it in the pre-COVID days.
Mhm.
Then when we were monitoring who was coming in and out, we didn't. And then this year with the way that the MOA worked, where we couldn't have kids roam the building in the morning time. But I anticipate going back to the way that it was, where some kids got here super early and would go and sit in the cafeteria or come down and sit in the library or walk the halls. I anticipated going back to what it was.
Okay.
I think that'll help.
Yeah.
so I make a motion that we accept the proposed calendar for the 2022-2023 school year as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Mhm.
Sorry. I think with snow days, we probably don't expect this date to stick, but right now the last day would be early release on a Monday, correct?
It would. But you'll have enough hours
Have enough hours
to absorb a couple of days
So.
if you want to. Maybe even including that one a year from tonight when we're having the conversation about the last day of next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know realistically it may move anyways, but I'm just thinking for the staff to show up on that day, how many students? Half a day on a Monday.
Half a day on
Yeah.
Monday.
So, yeah. No, it looks good. Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The audit.
So the audit, the on-site part of the audit was done in August. It went very well, very busy. We did all 3 at the same time. Prospect did very well. We didn't really have any findings. So here it is presented. I do have, books, if anybody actually wants a hard copy rather than, I'm hoping you all have an electronic copy that was sent, yes? So I will send you an electronic copy, so you'll have it, or you can take out a copy.
It was actually, I think it was attached.
Was it
I thought it was.
The full audit?
Yeah, because I remember seeing the financial statements.
It's great reading.
I think it was just a short one.
It was just a short one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I will email you a copy of the full audit. So you'll have it.
Pick an email. Just pick an email.
Pick an email.
Well, and if it's long, I mean, it could probably just go on the website. We could go check it out there if we wanted to.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
They have a team drive. We call it the team drive for the board.
So, the fund balance to be returned to the school districts is a total of $457,254. We're at 50%, so Alton will receive $228,627. Farmstead will get $228,627. Fund 5, which is the facility rentals, you also have a fund balance to be returned to the school districts, total $10,921. So again, you split that in half. Alton will receive $5,460.50. Farmstead will receive $5,460.50.
We accept the year 21 audit and the fund balances to be returned as stated.
Second.
Yes.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you, Heidi, good job.
Yes, thank you.
Unified sports stipends?
Did this make it on? Yeah, I see
Yeah.
that you all
Yeah, we
all
got it.
have this. So thank you to Sharon Patterson for making a bunch of phone calls and looking around at the board's request at your last meeting. And some of you will be pleased with this information because it confirms what I think some of you suspected. The numbers speak for themselves, and we will do what you tell us to do next.
I can't remember how much the other coaches make. What do they make per
The
stipend?
assistant coaches made like 1,300.
Yeah, there's one on our
1200.
list for
So an
1,200.
assistant coach at the high school makes $1,200. A head coach is around 26, but I think it varies a little bit by sport, right, Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah.
I make a motion up just to $1,000 per unified sports person, individual, coach. Yeah, I'm just making it.
Yep.
I will second that for discussion.
There you go.
I disagree.
Would you like to modify the motion?
Yes, I'd like to modify the motion. I would make a motion that the unified sports stipend be commensurate with at least an assistant coach salary.
I was gonna recommend it $12.50, so,
Whatever the assistants make, I agree.
Yeah.
which $1,200.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I was. You never know which way the group's gonna go.
And just to confirm, to understand why we're making it equivalent to assistant coach, not a full coach, is that there are fewer practices and fewer games?
Mm-hmm.
There are, and Jay could speak more in detail if you want him to, but they practice a couple of times a week, 2, maybe 3 times, and they might have 4 or 5 competitions in an entire season, as opposed to a varsity or JV team, which is meeting every day for 2 or 3 hours to practice and having anywhere from a dozen to 24 competitions.
And it's probably safe to assume that this, a UA spec would be similar to other districts too, right?
Yeah, definitely.
There are, Jay, again, if
No,
you're
but I
interested,
think
Jay can speak more to the
as
difference
far as-
between a competitive unified team and a recreational unified team. There is a difference.
Yeah.
Quite obvious.
I don't know what all of these other schools, what they have in terms of, with the NHIA, you can categorize as either a recreational team or a competitive team. The competitive teams are competing to put state banners on the wall. We, a few years ago, decided that we were going to be a recreational program. We just didn't have enough athletes to make our team competitive, and some of the athletes who did qualify to play weren't physically capable of doing some of the things that we needed for some of the sports. So when we chose to go recreation, that's why the stipend is where it's at. The kids maybe, like for example, soccer season, they practiced, but they never had a game. They scrimmaged against, one time teachers went out there, another time the boys varsity team went out there. Basketball, I think they had 3 games this year against other recreational schools, and they practiced 2 times a week. And track will be the same thing. I think they have 4 track meets. And all of those recreational schools are all in the same boat, so that's why we're doing the same thing 4 different times.
Yeah.
So we have,
I think it's just more fair, more, because while they may not practice as much, or it may not be as competitive, there's certainly as much, if not more, responsibility when you're an adult who is in charge of these students in a practice or in an extracurricular situation.
I did it for 13 years, working with Special Olympics. Did it at White Mountain Regional High School and all through college and afterwards. So it is a lot of responsibility depending on what level they're at and everything else. So it's, less practices, it can be a lot of wrangling.
So I second Ann's motion, but now we have 2 motions.
well, we
Then
have,
she modified.
yeah, so we have a 1,200 and a 1,250 on the table. I feel like an auctioneer for discussion.
You okay with 1250?
I don't know, mine was just the
To be
same as
compatible.
the assistant.
Yeah,
Because I didn't know what the assistant
that feels right
made.
to me too.
Okay,
1,200?
yeah.
Okay. All right. So Ann's motion, modified motion stands. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, okay. Personnel report.
So, missing from your packet, and I don't really have a letter of resignation to give you copies of, but I received an email from Vicki Sweezy, who joint board members will recall has been on a leave of absence unpaid this year. She is not returning. So you should accept her resignation, please.
Make a motion.
And you will not see her on the renomination sheet.
What's her name again?
Vicki Sweezy?
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Vicki Sweezy.
I'll second.
Didn't we have some kind of agreement while she was on leave of absence?
Yeah, we were not paying her. We simply told her that the job was here if she wanted to return to it with no loss of service time or pay or anything like that.
So we didn't do health insurance or anything?
We've been doing nothing.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion?
It's sad not to have her come back.
Yeah, she's been here a long time.
Yeah.
Susie has been here one time. Even I don't know, so.
She's not coming back to New England. She's relocated.
Moved,
Right,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
just saying with regrets, she's.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Right. Whale through the list, anybody who wants to. So we have, new teacher nominations. Somebody would like to make a motion?
Make a motion to the custodian Francis Shaheen.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Athletic department, Steve Renner for assistant varsity softball coach.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we have the renominations.
Make a motion to accept the renominations as presented.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Construction.
So Heidi has, everyone has it, right? He provided a memo here, but just because it's been a month since we've spoken, some things have happened. The Department of Education granted conceptual approval for an ESSER-funded construction project here at Prospect Mountain High School. It does include the replacement of the flat roof, along with as much HVAC, ventilation and air quality improvement in that area, the same area of the building where that roof is, as we can afford, given the amount of money we have in the grant. So we went out to bid, and again, the DOE approved this grant-funded activity for engineering and project management. So this is H.L. Turner Group's response to our solicitation for bids for project management and engineering to design and spec the roof replacement and HVAC improvements.
So I'll make a motion to accept H.L. Turner's proposal in the amount of $30,800 for their engineering meeting and project management.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
To be used out of ESSER grant. Sorry, we had that on there.
Oh, sorry. I'll second that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Misty, did we only get one response to the bid?
Which was strange because we had other vendors at the walkthrough who were qualified, and it's not a bad job.
Just a lot of work out there. I mean,
They're all busy.
we're building a new building and we can't find people.
Are
They're all
you
really busy.
satisfied with the bidder? Okay.
They're working for us in Forest
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
And you might hear their name again next week in Alton. Which actually, you know, now for them to be responsive to all three SAUs makes sense, right? If we schedule responsibly with them, they'll pick a day a week or every 2 weeks, and they'll be here and they'll go to all three places.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So this says that, construction drawings and bid will take place during the 2022 calendar year, and then construction would start in 2023, roughly.
So our approach has been, we'll do whatever we can get contractors to do, but our approach has been that we think we're more likely to get decent pricing if we don't push to have the work done as quickly as possible.
Right.
If we're willing to, we have the performance period for the ESSER 3 grant is all the way to September 30th of 2024. We have all that time to spend the money. And right now, we all know things are expensive, right? Especially in construction, just getting people to show up is hard. If we can do it sooner, we'll do it sooner, but if it comes down to paying more versus waiting a little bit longer, the roof doesn't leak, it's just due. It's right, we're at 20 years, so it's due to be replaced. It's good preventative
Like I
maintenance.
said, we have a large project going on in the building, and right now in a year, steel went up 430% in 1 year. So, you know, we're kind of freaking out on our building right now, so we're hoping, same thing, as we get approval and we order the steel, it comes down a little bit.
Right.
30%.
And this doesn't have to go to any kind of vote or anything because it's a grant-funded project.
You just voted for the engineering, and you'll
No, I
vote
mean-
again for the construction, and that's it.
No
You can,
community.
nope, you can do this.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
We have not voted. We have a motion, I
Oh,
think.
you're about to vote, sorry.
Yes, we have a motion.
Any further questions? I asked a couple of questions, that's how I got through it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I had already written it down.
All right, second public input, seeing none, I'll close public input. Future agenda items. Nothing specific? Okay. Other business?
Based on our schedule, I'm sorry, but based on our schedule for the meetings for, shared services and, enrollment options,
Mhm.
we should probably have that on our next agenda.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Next meeting date scheduled for May 3rd. Bring your checkbooks. After you find them, dig them out of the file cabinet, wherever they live.
Actually, I
I
have
have
a
my
future
right
item,
here.
I don't know if it needs to be a future item, but did we ever come to a conclusion what we're doing with community service going forward? For
Oh,
hours
yeah.
or no hours or?
We reinstituted what we previously had and just prorated the amount of hours that each class was asked to perform. Justin and I would still like to have that conversation and entertain the idea of removing community service altogether from our graduation requirement. The more research that we've done, we think that it benefits students more if it's something that they do, that they can then claim they've done on scholarships and college applications versus being forced to do it as part of a graduation requirement. So we can have that conversation in the future should you want.
Okay, we'll add that to a future agenda. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Our powers combined. We ended the
You
meeting.
want to get that to Heidi?
We
I will.
can really
Chris, I thought you
good
spoke
things.
up. I want to
Jason's together.
All right, if